Hey everyone, and welcome to Game Explain's official Game of the Year for 2019. So this is a little bit different than the Game of the Decade series we've been doing, because this will count toward that, but the format's a little bit different. We're actually going with our usual Game of the Year format, where we more casually discuss our top 3 games of the year, but we'll be taking our top picks for each of us and presenting them to you to vote on as well, and that will become the candidate for that year's, being 2019's Game of the Decade, potentially. Now, there is one more thing we have to address real quick, and that's what game ended up winning our nomination for 2018's Game of the Decade. And, well, it's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it just barely pulled ahead. So congratulations, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and we'll be seeing more of you and the other nominees very soon. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's get to our top 3. We'll go in order here, starting off with Derek. Derek, what is your third top game of 2019?
It was a dang good year, and it was hard to parse this out, but number 3 for me actually had to end up being Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which I did not expect. Like, you know me, I've gotten a bit of a love for Castlevania over the course of my streaming series, but Bloodstained actually really successfully captured that magic. It has elements from Symphony and Aria and Order of Ecclesia, which are the three of the best games in the Castlevania series, while still being its own unique thing, and does a lot of fun elements. The fact that you have this huge crafting mechanic, the fact that you can make food and actually have it worthwhile rather than just healing, because the first time you eat it, it permanently increases stats. It's a huge place to explore. Miriam is a great new character, and I just ended up really loving Bloodstained way more than I ever expected. I kind of wondered if it was like on a rocky path. I was like, oh boy, are we going to end up with a minor Mighty Number 9? But no, this ended up being a fantastic game and a true love letter to the Castlevania type games, and honestly, it's really is a fantastic game. Unfortunately, the Switch version suffers a little bit. They're working on it, trying to get it better, and there's still DLC coming for it, as far as other playable characters and things like that. But yeah, if you play it on PS4, Xbox One, or PC, you're in for a really good time if you're in the mood for a Castlevania-like experience. It really is that good.
Alright, that sounds pretty good. Maybe I'll have to check it out. Though I should probably check out the other Castlevanias first.
Maybe if one or two.
Alright, well, we'll keep things going here. My third top pick of the year is Ring Fit Adventure. This is a game that just shouldn't work. Nintendo made exercising fun, and they did that by combining this interesting workout routine where you run in place and squeeze a ring or pull the ring, and combined it with basically an RPG. There's a story here, there's NPCs, there's a leveling up system, there's a skill tree. And this all actually comes together to form a compelling package that I haven't seen before. Now, Nintendo's dabbled with fitness games before, of course. Wii Fit took over the world, but that game wasn't especially fun, and it wasn't especially effective, at least for me. I'm sure it was for some people. Ring Fit Adventure, though, takes those mechanics and those ideas and just refines the heck out of it. It just makes a really fun story where you're like running through these worlds, partaking in all kinds of exercise-based challenges, and it's something that you're often having so much fun, you're not even realizing you're getting the workout, you're getting that intense of a workout until afterward, where you really feel it. Yeah, so I love this game. I love the character, the personality. Drago might be one of Nintendo's best villains, in my opinion, and the music too, both for Drago and across the game, is just great. It always befits the action perfectly. I love how how calming it feels when you're like running through these gorgeous worlds at times, and then I love how intense it can feel when you're engaged in these fitness battles or in these Drago battles. So yeah, Ring Fit Adventure is my third game. It does something that's really important in a really compelling and fun way.
Thanks for reminding me that I need to get back to that game so I can lose my holiday weight.
Yeah.
my
I still want to play it.
Reminding me.
Yeah, I need to go back too. I pulled a neck muscle a couple months ago, and that just wrecked my momentum. So I need to see how the story ends. All right, Steve, you're up next.
All
What's
right.
your third game of 2019? Third favorite game of 2019?
My third game for 2019 is Judgment. I picked this up right after E3. Sega sent me like a crazy early copy after I'd gotten to interview the producer so that I could get a feel for the game. And I got sucked into this. I started playing it, and it took me about 2 weeks of all of my free time to get through it, and I just could not put it down. You play as Takayuki Yagami, who is a detective in Kamurocho, and if you're not familiar, Kamurocho is the fictional city that the Yakuza series takes place in. So you're kind of in an offshoot of the Yakuza series. You don't run into any of the game's real established characters, but all the places are exactly the same, right? Because this city is almost a character in the series unto itself. And you start off, and the character's story is that he's a lawyer, and he helps someone get acquitted of murder, only for that same person to go back and seemingly murder someone again. So he's disgraced and decides instead to become a detective because he doesn't trust his instincts anymore as an attorney. And you end up taking on cases which, long story short, help you unravel just a ton of corruption in this town. But along the way, you get to partake in typical Yakuza series stuff, like just beating the ever-loving snot out of thugs. It has one of the best combat systems, I think, of just any game. It takes what Yakuza kind of started and makes it a little bit more grounded. Like, you're not this bigger than life superhuman person like the Yakuza series has you take on, but you're more of like a martial arts expert, and you can switch between 3 different styles. You can still do crazy stuff like smash people with benches or throw them into motorbikes or whatever, but it focuses a lot more on skill building, and the story is just this incredibly gripping, like, you know, edge of your seat kind of narrative. If it was a book, it would be the equivalent of a page turner for me. And of course, it still has kind of a lot of the crazy over the top stuff. Like there's this one side mission where a pilot and his wife are fighting in a restaurant, and the pilot flags you down, and he's like, "I've got to go fly, and my wife is super drunk. Can you take my place?" And of course, he pops out like a pilot uniform for you to wear, and you have to take this guy's like completely thrashed wife on a date just to like calm her down and not rouse her suspicions that you're a completely different human by just lying to her the whole time. So it's just a crazy fun game, a gripping, compelling story, excellent over-the-top action, and I can't recommend it enough to anybody. I'm not a big Yakuza fan, and I love this game.
Yeah, apparently can't recommend it enough. That was about to call out time on that presentation.
It's like a 50-hour game, man. And unlike you, Andre, I finished mine.
Wow.
I beat Judgment. Go back to Ring Fit, buddy.
Are you? Did you just call me fat, Steve?
I called you Ring Fat.
Aren't you all about those fat mascots, though? So
you're not a mascot, Andre. You're just a man.
A mascot? All right. What is this presentation? Let's move on. All right, next up, I believe we have John. What's your third game of 2019?
All right, so my third game of 2019 is a sequel to Derek's choice for 2016, which was Dragon Quest Builders 2. Now, I feel Builders 2 was an improvement over the first game in so many ways. They added far more mobility to your movesets. You can glide like in Breath of the Wild, you can sprint, and it's just way more versatile than the first game. But what I really like about it is it encourages free building more, and I hate free building. I hated free building in Builders 1, I don't like Minecraft because I don't like just having no objective. And in Builders 2 though, the hub world is like an interval between the chapters, and in those intervals you're sort of encouraged to just sort of make your own structures and follow these blueprints as well. So when the game ends, you're looking at everything you've built over those interval chapters, and you're like, oh wow, I made all this stuff, I kind of want to keep building upon it even though the game's over now. So that just sort of kept my freedom in check in a way that Builders 1 never did. So I feel like this is just one of the best sort of sequels you could do to a Builders game, while sort of maintaining its own story identity too. So it doesn't replace the first game, but it definitely builds upon it in a lot of different ways. And there's this one chapter which just goes really dark, like way darker than you think any sort of building game would go. And it really does, it's hard to describe, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's so dark. That's all I'll say. But yeah, it's a jolly game, it's a dark game, it's a fun game.
Is it darker than the Plague chapter of the first?
Oh yeah, the first one gets dark too, but this one goes even darker.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark.
Wow.
Real quick, I almost nominated Builders 2. I can't agree with you more, John. It's fantastic. I mapped out my top 5, and Builders was my 5th. Very close to my 4th. But yeah, I agree with you on all counts. It's an amazing game.
Nice. All right, Ash, what's your third pick for 2019?
All right, so my number 3 game of the year for 2019 is Sayonara Wild Hearts, a fantastic indie game made by Simogo and published by Annapurna Interactive. and it bills itself as a pop album video game, and that's very true. I've never played a game like this. It's a very arcadey, surreal, just the visuals are all just crazy, bursting with colors, and it's just nuts. And it's just, you're playing through a pop album, and every song is different. The soundtrack's amazing. And I'm just going to read a really quick paragraph as what Sayonara Wild Hearts describes itself. Sayonara Wild Hearts is a dreamy arcade game about riding motorcycles, skateboarding, dance battling, shooting lasers, wielding swords, and breaking hearts at 200 miles per hour. And that's about the best way I could describe it myself. This game, you guys, doesn't make sense, really, and that's okay, because everything that's happening on screen is so gorgeous, and it's synced up to such fantastic music that there's really no experience like it that I don't think I've ever had an experience like this in a game. And it's only $13. You can play through it in about 2 hours, but the length isn't the point. It's about mastering each song because it's just learning patterns. The sequences are the same every time. So it's very arcadey that you're going for high scores, and it's not meant to just be played once through in 2 hours. But everyone should experience this game, and that's why it's my number 3 game of the year.
Nice.
Very cool.
All right. I've been meaning to check that one out. Maybe I
highly recommend it.
All right. Well, we're on to our second round of picks then. Derek, what is your second game of the year, or your second place game of the year for 2019?
Second place had to be, for me, Fire Emblem Three Houses. This game caught on like fire amongst the community in a way that I honestly did not expect after the reaction to Fates. But Three Houses really captured something with this one, with the fact that you have these 3 very compelling narratives. If you play through them all, there is so much gameplay here, probably close to 200 if you really want to see everything. I recommend taking some breaks in between because there's so many different paths and characters that people just adore. I don't think there's a single character in here people look at and be like, ugh, them. No, they're all compelling and interesting, and being their professor is engaging in the ways that you can really guide them however you want, so your gameplay style really changes up. And you do want to see more of these students, and yeah, you can recruit them, but the way they interact with each other and the different scenarios that can pop up are really good. Plus, it does feel like a good refinement of the Fire Emblem series, and it just really pushes it forward into a way, back onto consoles in a way that makes it feel special. And I was absolutely engaged the entire time, and I need to get back to it because, to see the entire tapestry of the story, because you can get a satisfying ending with just one, but if you want to see everything that was going on throughout all these scenarios and what the whole full story is, you do have to play them all, which I think can be a bit of a limitation, but I think it's still engaging enough that you come back to every 6 months or maybe each year and just build upon it. Or if you get really sucked in that much, just get back to it right away. And it's just a really fun, really great example of the Fire Emblem series, and easily my second favorite game of this year.
Very nice. This is the one game I feel I need to play this year. It's just the biggest game I've missed out on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
Yeah, the problem with a lot of our picks is a lot of them are very long games. So it's
hard for all of us to actually play all these games.
Yeah. All right, well, I think I'm up next with my second pick for 2019, and that goes to Labo VR. So this was tough for me because I had considered putting it even higher, but I'm like, you know what, this is really games of the year as a collection of games rather than game of the year, so that's what helped decide my choice. I love Labo VR. I had such a fun time with these silly contraptions in games. It really is a concept of Labo, but executed pretty much perfectly. We have these different toy cons, but they complement the software selection better than any before. The software itself, for the most part, is more compelling than the other Labo kits. Just offering still, relatively shallow games by game standards, but just deep enough that they feel more compelling than just playing these simple mini games. There's actual goals to them and objectives. Some of them have multiple levels or multiple things to do. And I just had a blast. A lot of people had been hoping for Nintendo to try out VR. And this is it. This is them trying out VR. Granted, it's not like an entirely self-contained platform or anything, but this, I mean, it feels more complete than you would think from a pile of cardboard that turns into a VR system. And I had a blast with it, whether it's jumping as a frog or flying as a seagull. Like, it's all a blast, including the blaster game, which is literally a blast. And the contraptions, too, like, they actually enhance VR in a way that not every platform can. Like, you actually feel the physical feedback of a rocket shooting out of your gun when you blast it. Or you can feel the gush of air when jumping as a frog. Like, these are sensations that are things that most VR doesn't quite offer. And yeah, they have very limited applications for Labo VR, obviously, but the way they're implemented is great. And then there's the fact that it goes beyond the games included with Labo VR, because Nintendo started updating many of their other games, some of their top-selling games with VR. Now, some were hit or miss, but the ones that really hit, in my opinion, such as Captain Toad, which unfortunately takes maybe 10 minutes to play, but that's such a great use of VR, and I would love if Nintendo did something even farther with that, because that game is one of my favorites to see in VR now. But also, Breath of the Wild. Adding VR to Breath of the Wild, which initially me, along with most others it seems, didn't like it at all because it felt kind of a little bit nauseating. Once I got over that, I had a blast with it. It actually made me appreciate Breath of the Wild even more than I did at the time. And I think it made me realize I prefer VR ultimately as an enhancement to a game, rather than, games being built only with VR in mind. So yeah, I had a blast with that, and all this taken together is why Labo VR is my second game of the year. Just a ton of fun, way better than I expected, and it's Nintendo in VR, which is something I think myself have wanted to see for a long time.
Mm-hmm. I know you're facing an uphill battle with this one, because people don't really take Labo VR that seriously. But I will say the Toy-Con do feel like a natural extension of all the games. Like when you're playing the blaster game, using the blaster and seeing it reflected in real time in the game feels so natural. And it's true for all the other Toy-Con too. So if you haven't tried Labo VR before, then absolutely give it a go. It's really worth your time.
It's a really cheap entry point to just trying VR, yeah.
It's shockingly convincing for what it is. Like, when I got it too, and I'm like, and I actually tried it with you, Andre, at the first event for it, and I was immediately like, this is really impressive for what it is, and you can get in such a cheap level for like $30 or $40 or something for one of the half kits, and it's so good.
Yeah, I expected like a Fisher-Price style experience, and no, this feels like legit VR. I mean, obviously it doesn't have like the one-to-one hand tracking, but the way they work around that is simply brilliant, and it's just a ton of fun, and like you were just saying, it's a super cheap entry point into VR, so... Alright, nice. Steve, what's your second favorite game of 2019?
My second pick for 2019 is Untitled Goose Game.
Ooh.
Nice.
I cannot think of a game that has made me laugh harder and more consistently than Untitled Goose Game. I don't even really know how to pitch it, because you can kind of do whatever you want as long as it's awful. I mean, but there's something so viscerally entertaining about being this animal that most people either mistakenly or accurately think is inherently like a jerk of an animal, and just doing funny things as it. So I spent an absurd number of hours in the beginning area of the game just because I wanted to mess with the farmer. I would take his radio and throw it in the lake, even though I didn't really need to. I'd already completed that objective. But I would just do it again because it was funny. Or when he would go hammer the sign, I would intentionally honk and scare him just to watch him hammer his own hand and fall down.
You're horrible.
It's just such a funny game. And actually, John, I can give some context for an old tweet now. When I was talking about, John posted a screenshot of me in our Discord, and it just said, whenever I could hurt somebody, I did. And that was me talking about this game. Sure because whenever I could make the goose have someone cause bodily harm to themselves, I would absolutely go for it. And even just thinking back to the game, I don't want to spoil the ending to it, but there's this incredible gag just at the end of the game, and no matter how many times I see that, I end up busting up laughing every single time. And I think, the internet completely understands what I'm trying to convey about this game. It's just this hilarious, infinitely replayable, silly little game that you can bang through in 30 minutes if you want, but it's just super, super fun to play, and no matter how many times I go back to it, it makes me smile every single time.
I think you're right that everyone understands what this game is. It's a way to filter out who's a psychopath among your friends, torturing these poor villagers hours after you completed the objectives.
Wow.
I mean, Steve, my wife can back you up. She did the same thing. I had to watch her for like 2 hours, and she just delighted in just making that farmer's life as terrible as possible. And I just couldn't help but laugh. It was hilarious.
Right, there's something, like, even if you're the type of person that doesn't play games, Untitled Goose Game is one that most people somehow are able to connect with and enjoy.
Mm-hmm. It's really easy for us to be like, oh, I just have to be a jerk goose. Cool, I can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, John, what is your second pick for your game of 2019?
Okay, so you guys know I love Resident Evil 4, right?
What?
And Resident Evil 4 did come to Switch this year, but don't worry, I'm not choosing that as my game of the year. I feel like since Resident Evil 4, the series has sort of faced an identity crisis, where 5 is a good game, but it definitely leaned more towards action. And then 6 went off the deep end with his action. 7 was a good game as well, but again, it wasn't quite what I expected in tone from the series. And then I think Resident Evil 2 Remake, though, has finally nailed the formula of what modern Resident Evil should be. It still has the charm of the characters you know and love, and it brings back that world of the original Resident Evil 2 to life. But it's more than just remaking Resident Evil 2. They've completely nailed the formula of Resident Evil, and they've made a new standard for what the series needs to be in the future. I think Resident Evil 2 Remake is just a new game in and of itself. It shares the same story, it shares the police station, but apart from that, this is nothing like the original. It's a lot darker in tone, and it's a lot scarier. Like, this game is legitimately scary. I feel like games over the years have made zombies less of a threat with how plentiful they are, and with how fast they are. But in Resident Evil 2, they are a threat again. They will slowly go towards you, they'll lunge at you, and they'll really cause damage. I don't think zombies have been this threatening in games for years.
I feel like it's a direct attack at Days Gone.
Pretty much it is. I won't hide that. But yeah, I think Resident Evil 2 Remake is just such a great celebration of what Resident Evil 2 was. And it doesn't replace the original, but it does, I think in many ways, enhance it.
Nice.
Yeah, I had this as my number 5. I had a blast playing through Claire's story. I still want to go back and do Leon's and all those extra scenarios they added. It's a lot of fun.
I was like, I actually want to play this because they took out the spiders. I could not have played it but I actually want to play it now.
Ash, you won't like this. There was a recent patch, and they added cobwebs into the sewers, which might be a hint that spiders are coming in either a future update or in Resident Evil 3.
Oh, man. I can deal with cobwebs. Are okay. I can deal with cobwebs. That's fine.
All right.
Yeah, well, glad they add them.
I'm actually gonna go a little bit against it here, just because I played it. I thought it was fine. I didn't beat it, actually. I got a little bit bored of it. I got tired of like all the back and forth. Like, I mean, I guess it harkens back to what the game was originally, but I feel like it felt especially dated these days with how I'm going back and forth through the same hallways, same rooms. I didn't find it to be especially fun doing that over and over. So yeah, it didn't quite hook me in the way that Resident Evil 4 say it did. So
I thought it was cozy. I think you get to know the police station a bit more, and the map system was really intuitive for that.
That police station is not cozy. There's nothing cozy about that police station. There's like lurkers in hallways. There's steam shooting out of vents. What?
So cozy.
I still, one of the most memorable moments
too.
for me was when I was playing Leon's campaign for the second run, and I'm like, okay, I'm in the main hall, I'm safe. Here comes Mr. X walking through. What the hell?
Yeah, that's usually a safe zone. It's so unsettling when he just sort of moseys on in, and you're never safe from him.
No.
Well, and I got to give it props. I previewed it at E3, and I was sitting in a room with headphones on, but still, it was pretty loud, and it was still scary. That's how. I mean, it's a scary game, as you said, John, because if it can still be creepy in that environment, there you go.
Yeah, I find it's more about the sound really than anything when it comes, at least for me, when it comes to scares. Like, if you're wearing headphones, yeah, that's enough to sell the effect. Whereas if you mute the game, for me, that makes most games trivial to get through. So,
Sure. Yeah.
or in terms of like not being scary.
This would be my number one if... I think Mr. X gets a bit tiresome on repeat playthroughs, because at first he's a really menacing character. But when you're on like your third playthrough, he just kind of gets in the way.
He's just kind of
I
annoying.
feel like this
Like,
isn't the best game to replay over and over. Whereas the original Resident Evil 2, I can just go back to any day of the week. So it's definitely a great like first time experience. But unlike your repeat playthroughs, I think you start to lose some of the charm.
All right. Well, I think that's the case for a lot of games, though. To be fair, like if you three times in 1 year, that's a lot. So
That's true.
all right, Ash, what's your second game of 2019? Second favorite game of 2019?
All right, well, speaking of the importance of sound, my second favorite game of 2019, and I'm just as surprised as anyone, is YookaLaylee and the Impossible Lair. This game came out of nowhere for me, because I think like you guys, when the trailer came out, I'm like, oh, okay, they're going to try to make DKC. That's probably not going to work out too well, just based on the fact that the original YookaLaylee, it was fine. I don't think it was horrible, but it was just fine. It didn't turn out to be the return of Banjo Kazooie that everybody wanted. This game is, in my opinion, in many ways, a DKC 4. This game, the level design is so good, and it's the controls are pitch perfect. We've been talking about the best bounce and in the best, jumping off enemies in various platform games. YookaLaylee and Impossible Lair has a great bounce. There's a fantastic sense of momentum that you get from the same kind of thing you get from Retro's DKC games. And my God, you guys, the soundtrack. This is the soundtrack of the year, period. Of course, Grant Kirkhope and David Wise are performing their usual magic, but I gotta call out junior composers Dan Murdoch and Matt Griffin, because they're also responsible for the soundtrack, and all four of them knocked it out of the park. In addition, the game looks great, even on Switch. It runs at a really smooth 60 frames per second, and the overworld is its own game. It's like a game within a game, because there's all these secrets to uncover, all these playtonics to find, all these levels to unlock, where it's like an overhead view, almost like an overhead isometric view, and it's just like a puzzle game within the actual platforming levels. And one of my favorite things about it is there are things you can do in the overworld that affect the local environment. So, for example, you can open a dam, and a river is going to come rushing out, and it'll hit the storybook for a certain stage. Every stage is represented by a storybook. That stage now is flooded, giving you a completely new version of the level, and these don't feel like retreads. They feel like totally new levels, and there are 2 versions of all 20 levels in the game. This game, you guys, is fantastic. I recommend it to everybody if you like platformers, and I'm just as surprised as you are that Playtonic's second effort is so fantastic and at the top of their game, and I can't wait to see what they do next.
Yeah, I've been playing it a bit with Amy, and it can definitely be tough too. That's the thing.
It's tough.
Real teeth in this game.
And I like that about it. Like, it doesn't put on, the kid gloves. Like, it takes off the kid gloves immediately, and it expects you to learn it. But if you want to make the experience easier for yourself, much like I argued in Shovel Knight, you can turn Playtonics on to, various Playtonics on to make the game easier for you in the ways you want, and you just take a hit in your quill multiplier. So you can control the difficulty yourself, and that's just one more thing that's so fantastic about this game. I could go on about this game forever. And the writing is hilarious.
Well, we definitely don't want you going forever, so...
I know. So stop me here, but this game's amazing.
Nice. All right.
I do often see people dismiss this game because of the existence of Tropical Freeze, but it's been 5 years since Tropical Freeze. This game is fine to exist.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right. Well, that brings us to our number 1 pick. So these are the ones that will be our candidates as a potential nominee for our game of the decade for 2019. So these will be the ones you're all voting on, so let's get to it. Derek, what is your top game of 2019?
I mean, it really could only be one. As much as I waited years
like
for
you're
this
in
game.
pain. Just tell me.
No, I'm not in pain because this is a real game. Here's the thing that makes this game so hard to talk about is because of the discourse. Because there's unfortunately not a lot of love for this game. I don't expect to win this, but I truly did enjoy my experience with Kingdom Hearts 3. I thought the combat was fantastic. I thought the new worlds that you got to visit were a lot of fun. I platinumed this game, which usually means you have to, with Kingdom Hearts games, you have to actually go out of your way and do all the gummy ship stuff. And the gummy ship stuff in this game is a lot of fun. I could not get enough of it. It pulled me in and sucked me in that much that I continued to play it after review. And yeah, I did give it a mind-blowing. It really was that effective to me. In fact, there's a little bit to it that I didn't fully understand when I was playing it. I missed a certain button prompt, and that made my life just a little bit harder, and I still enjoyed it that much. In fact, it became like no problem for me. And yeah, you can get onto Kingdom Hearts about its story and its characters and how it makes no sense. That's always going to be an issue, but if you're a fan, you will love this stuff, and I just ended up really enjoying it. It really was a fantastic experience for me. And these are personal picks, and like I said, I don't expect any of you to agree with me, and I know Ash has his own problems with the ending, which fair. These are completely fair problems with it. But for me, going through that initial time, seeing these environments, seeing these characters, seeing the level of humor that they actually put forward, some really great lines that actually made me laugh, and some moments that are still memorable, like the Woody telling one of the bad guys that nobody will ever love him, or the sheer or the sheer slapstick of the Monsters Inc. door sequence. Like, there are some fantastic moments in here that people will remember for a long time, and I just enjoyed the hell out of it to the point where I felt that it deserved a mind-blowing, and I'm going to stick by that. And it's my game of the year. It's my favorite game of the year.
Nice. All right.
Nice.
Well, we're not doing an official cross-examination round this time, but we can dive in a little bit deeper for these games that we have in the past. I did want to ask you just one thing, though, Derek, and this isn't like a cross-examination thing, just curiosity. You did say you think that a lot of fans, like if you're a fan of the series, you would love this game. But I could be off base here. I feel like a lot of the complaints have been coming from fans of the series who weren't happy with how it wrapped up.
Yeah,
well,
and
I can raise my hand.
Yeah, Ash, go ahead and tell why you didn't exactly enjoy it. I think that's more fair.
Well, this would have been my number 5 game of the year. I don't hate Kingdom Hearts 3. I actually quite enjoyed my time with it, but to me, Kingdom Hearts 3 is like the video game version of a belly flop. This game took such a graceful dive from a really high diving board and did all these cool tricks and gracefulness, and it looks amazing, and then it just belly flops. And that to me was how Kingdom Hearts 3 ended. There were parts I liked about the ending, but the parts I hated about the ending, I hated so much that it really did affect the experience for me. However, I agree with you, Derek. Like, there's almost nothing better than Disney villains talking crap to Organization 13 members, and much of how the story resolved I liked, but it didn't quite deliver for me in the way that I hoped it would, and the Remind DLC seems like it'll fix that, but we can't count DLC as part of ranking the original game. So I didn't hate Kingdom Hearts 3, and I didn't dislike it, but I do understand the fans who are displeased with it, and that damn ending.
It is those final moments that will really kill it for people, whether they like it or not, because story-wise, if they're invested in the story, because this is meant to be a bit of a wrap-up for a certain saga, and it wraps it up, but maybe not in the way that you were hoping or expecting, and Xehanort's final moments are maybe not the best.
I'll put it like this. It left me sore.
Oh, God.
All right.
Let's move on.
Anything else, or should we go on?
I mean, like I said, I enjoy it. Remind might fix it. I mean, that's the issue with doing Game of the Decade and pulling from 2019. We've had years to experience other games. This is still extremely fresh for people, and Remind might change the perspective of that. Because, Steve talked about Red Dead Redemption's Undead Nightmare DLC and how that enhanced the game. So it's just the nature of it being so new, and maybe we'll have to see how it gets evaluated as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. All right, well, I guess I'll give my my top pick now. My favorite game of 2019. I don't know how I could even blunder that out there, because my top pick is such a clear choice for being Game of the Year and Game of the Decade, being New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, baby. That's right. This game does not get any better than this.
Lies.
Right, obviously, I'm lying.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were going out there with some conviction. I'm like,
Yeah, that was weird for a second. I didn't like it.
So Ash already took my pick. It's YookaLaylee and the Impossible Lair. This is my favorite game of 2019. I think it is just a fantastic platformer. It follows in the same vein, or a similar vein, as Donkey Kong Country series. I think more specifically the Donkey Kong Country Returns series in terms of feel, and it just nails like the momentum-based feel, the level design where you can kind of fly through these levels even know what you're doing, and it all feels great. And then, as Ash already touched on, they augmented, or they added onto this, a brilliant world map mechanic, which is something I haven't seen in any other game to this level, where it's like a 3D roaming game almost. It could be its own game, but it's not. It's just a world map here. But there's so much you can do in it, whether it's discovering secrets, talking to characters, getting new abilities, finding things that can help you throughout the game itself. And as Ash also said, the ability to transform these levels by solving some kind of puzzle in the overworld that affects the stats of the book and thus the level inside is genius. That is such a cool idea, and I would love if they elaborate on that even farther. Instead of just giving us like a binary choice, like give us multiple ways of interacting. But that's just something that just occurred to me now. The game is so good, I didn't even think about that then. This game is just great. It was constantly surprising me, and the fact that it came to us by way of the team that made YookaLaylee makes it all the more impressive, because I wasn't a fan of that game. But this game, they really just kind of killed it across the board. Plus, I have to mention the amazing music, which is contributed by David Wise and Grant Kirkhope, plus a few other composers, which are just up at that level as well. It's all fantastic stuff. So yeah, this game is just great, and I implore you to check it out, especially if you enjoyed the Donkey Kong Country series or Return series.
I will say that those FX tonics that change how the game appears, like black and white or noir or whatnot, I don't really like those. Like, granted, they're optional, but they make it so hard to see.
Yeah, I don't use them. Like, they're cool for like screenshots or like little gimmicks, but I totally agree. I actually ignored most of the tonics. For them, there were like 2 or 3 I would use consistently, but I ignored most of them. But I don't like playing, like, I don't like adjusting the difficulty balance too much, or playing, going away from the baseline of how the game should play, I think. So yeah, luckily it's easy enough to ignore all those.
I will say, I didn't cover this when I was talking about it. I would say the one knock against the game that I have is
no ashes in my sequence. Why are you complaining about the game in my time?
Because I want to hear what you have to say about this. Since you're number one, I would say it's the titular impossible lair. It represents a really strange difficulty spike. I know it's called the impossible lair, but it just feels like it's almost part of a different game than the rest of the game that precedes it. Even if you get all the beads, it just felt weird to me. How did you feel about that, Andre?
Full disclosure, I didn't finish it. So.
Fair enough.
Wow. So it just shows how good the game is.
It doesn't matter.
That
exactly.
Steve had against you with Judgment and actually finishing games is really prescient right now.
Yeah, I just ran out of time. So I didn't have time. I didn't see the layer all the way through. I got most, or not. I forget how far I got exactly. So I can see that being a complaint, but I mean, as you said, it is called the impossible lair, and I like 2 things about it. One, I like the fact that it is this kind of big barrier to finishing the game, and I like that it's a barrier you can try to overcome at any point in the game, borrowing a page from Breath of the Wild. It's something I forgot to touch on. I love that element of it. Whether or not it captures that element as well as Breath of the Wild, it's hard to say, just because it does seem like relatively tougher than it is in Breath of the Wild, perhaps. But I do like that. I do like the opportunity is there to beat the game from the get-go if you want. It does get easier. Perhaps it could have been a little bit better balanced in the end. But yeah, maybe I'll go back and actually finish it, so I can answer that question. But even having not properly finished it, I thoroughly enjoy my time with it. So
it's phenomenal. Everyone should play it.
Yeah.
Too good to finish.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
There you go.
All right, Steve, what is your top game of 2019?
All right, so Andre, you and I actually have something in common with our top games.
What?
And that is that somebody else already chose them. My top game for 2019 is Derek's number 2 pick, Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Nice.
And I am shocked that nobody else took this, because I got this in at the last second, and I just assumed this was going to be like everybody's pick. I don't know how anybody could see another game as being better this year. First off, I mean, the voice acting in this game is just incredible, top notch. Like, I remember tweeting after the game came out that I just want David Lodge, who voices the narrator and a character in the game, to just break into my house and read bedtime stories to me, because the intro to every story segment is just like, I don't know, it's like this perfect like little zen experience. It's so relaxing to watch. But like Derek said, there's hundreds of hours of gameplay in this game. If you go through every single story route, you probably are going to do about 200 hours. So one of the things that I've realized now that I professionally cover games is that I very seldom play games that I'm not involved with. But I didn't do anything for Fire Emblem, and I played through it twice. So that alone tells me that this is a game that is just very worth, taking time out of your schedule to fit in. And I mean, this is I complained earlier that when I look at a 40 or 50 hour game, I get intimidated and just choose not to play it. But Fire Emblem was so engrossing that not only did I choose to play it knowing full well what the time commitment was and based on Derek's stellar feedback during the review period, but I circled back and did it again, and that's something I really never do anymore. But like Derek said, every character, with the exception of probably I would say Lawrence is likable. am in the middle of a third playthrough trying to recruit every single student over to my school, and each, there's really a character for like every personality type. Like I'm personally an Edelgard follower, but I've been argued to death about Claude, and I don't even remember the other dude's name. I'm not gonna lie, but I've just enjoyed my time with it so much. It's probably my favorite RPG of this generation so far.
Wow.
Nice. All right.
That says
But
quite
you
a
couldn't
bit.
pet the dog until the game was patched, though, so it sounds like it's a bad game.
John, you've never played the game, so why don't you keep your bad
I
opinions
played it
out
for an
here?
hour.
Well,
John is up
39 more to
next,
go,
so
buddy.
if his game doesn't have a dog being a pet, he can lay back.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
there,
What does that
so.
say about John?
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, Steve. It was hard not to pick it because it really did stand out. And I'm going at it from as a Fire Emblem fan. There's like a few elements like it would have been nice to have this here or that there. And I do think the game's overall a bit easier, which I don't think is a terrible thing because I think it's a lot more accessible. And they have added that new lunatic difficulty, which is brutal. So. Yeah, I think if you're looking for difficulty now, you will get it. But at the time, it was pretty easy compared to a lot of other Fire Emblem games.
Yeah, I agree with that criticism. I think when it came out, it was on the easier side, but I also think that was a good decision to try to get the series to be a bit more accessible to people who haven't picked it up before. But yeah, I'm glad to see that they patched in higher difficulties to kind of appease the more hardcore fan base that's used to these games being much more of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, would you say there are too many anime swordsmen in Fire Emblem Three Houses? Is that a knock against it?
I would say that it has just the right amount of anime swordsmen and anime
Nice.
wizards.
Would you say there are too
Okay.
many Fire Emblem characters in Fire Emblem Three Houses?
I would say there's just enough because you can only romance one, Andre.
Well, the great thing about the whole anime swordsman thing is that you can make none of them swordsmen if you want.
That's true. I think Byleth is the only sword using character I have in my current loadout in Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Now I want I was gonna say Fire Emblem. Really, any character in Smash, so you can actually actively swap their weapon to 1 and 3. I think that'd be pretty.
That'd be really cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, John, what's your top game of 2019?
Okay, so unlike all these other games, this game wasn't known about for months, or even years, we knew about this game when it came out. It was a shadow drop. This game is Tetris 99.
Oh man,
Wow.
I know what you're thinking, John, where are the dogs? Well, I guess you can build a dog out of Tetraminos if you, try and do the pattern right.
I want video on this now.
But I feel Tetris 99 is the best competitive Tetris game ever. And I'm usually really intimidated by competitive Tetris. Puyo Puyo Tetris, I played online for a little bit, everyone's far too good. And the thing with Tetris 99 is you're playing against 99 other people. And when you're playing online, it kind of has those random elements that Tetris has always had, but it amplifies them by having all these other people in the same room as you, and you're all sort of working against each other, and sometimes together with the new update. So I love that it sort of amplifies the core of Tetris, which is just, you've got to be skillful at it for one, but you've also got to be lucky. You've got to get the right pieces. You've got to avoid being tackled by or getting ganged up on by a group of people. And it gives you the tools to avoid that as well. So you can attack, you can guard, and you can sort of you can send trash back against the people who are tackling you. So it definitely has a lot of different layers to it. And this is the game that I've played the most this year. I've got 160 hours in Tetris 99, and it's the easiest game to pick up and play. And I feel like when it first launched, it was a bit of bare bones. It had one theme, one musical theme as well. But as time's gone on, Tetris 99's been given a Splatoon theme, a Fire Emblem theme, a Luigi's Mansion theme, a Pokemon theme. I think there's like 20 themes now. So there's definitely a lot of variety in what you can see and hear. And there's a lot of modes now too. There's a co-op mode, there's a team mode, there's Invictus, which is basically all the winners going against each other. So for me, I feel like this is just one of the most addictive games on the Switch. And I feel like it's one of my favourite games on the Switch. I'd put this up there with Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. That's high praise.
Man,
Seriously.
I would love. It would be hilarious if this actually somehow beat Breath of the Wild or any game for our game of the decade.
I'll allow it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I wish I was better at Tetris 99 because I really enjoy the game, but I don't think I've ever won a game to date. Maybe I won one game, but I'm not good enough at Tetris to really get as much out of it as you, I think, John.
I think that's okay. I think the addictive quality of Tetris 99 is if you come like 50th, you say, okay, I'll have another go because I might come higher next time, and then like maybe you come 60th. Like, okay, I want to do better than that, and then you keep going again and again. And even if like maybe you come like top 10, it's like, oh, maybe I'll win next time. So I think that's just the most addicting part of it. So I feel like it's okay to lose because even if you don't come first, you're still beating like 70 other people in your go.
I wonder if that may be why I fell off, because I think I'm just too good, John. I peaked pretty early. I got my chicken dinner within the first week, I think. I forget. You can look at my tweets. Maybe it was longer than that. I can't remember. And I got first. I'm like, I'm good. I did it. I beat Tetris 99. I've got nothing more to prove.
Have you won in Invictus though? Because I have never won.
That didn't
Invictus.
exist at the time, John. So
give it a go. It's brutal.
Yeah, maybe.
Invictus
I imagine
especially
it is.
starts at the top speed and it gets even faster. It's so
Oh
scary.
no, I could
actually
not
give that a
handle
shot.
that. Because I think the best I place is third.
That's impressive.
Nice.
I think Tetris 99 is a really interesting and good choice, but there's another issue with it, John. And that is, it's not actually based on the best version of Tetris, which was the new Tetris on 64, in which you could build silver and gold blocks. Why can I not build gold and silver blocks in this game, John?
You know, I have no defense for that, but I will say this is still a really good version of Tetris, though.
I do love how leave it to Nintendo to turn the idea of a battle royale on its head and add it to freaking Tetris. I want to see that done for more series now. Not every battle royale needs to be a shooter. Look what Tetris did. So
Yeah. Oh man, I'd love to see a crossover between Tetris 99 and Tetris Effect.
Oh wow!
Oh,
Yeah,
that would
really
be
cool.
awesome. Yeah.
man, that'd be intense. I think that's you just go full lawnmower man at that point.
Pretty much.
What is it with you and Lawnmower Man?
All right, Ash, what you're up last. What's your tell us what the final game of 2019 is? Your top game of 2019.
All right, so my very good buddy Steve, unintentionally I'm sure, made my life quite hard with my number one game of the year. Because, we had originally been straying away from remakes and re-releases, but then he went and nominated Majora's Mask 3D. So I don't know if my pick will be eligible for voting. We can go with YookaLaylee if you want, but I gotta be honest, my number one game of the year is Dragon Quest XI S. This game feels almost like a completely different game from the original release, which I also played a little bit of and previewed when it came out. And it isn't just like a re-release with a few new things. Like there's like a battle speed selector, so you can speed up battles if you want to grind really fast. You can forge new equipment and hail your horse anytime instead of just at save points. There's an orchestrated soundtrack that replaces the absolutely horrid synthesized soundtrack from the original game. There's so much more. There are completely new side stories for your party members that take place in the middle of the game, showing you where they end up by the second half of the game. And I could go on and on. I'm not going to keep going. But basically, you guys, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Dragon Quest XI S, to me, is the best JRPG since... It's the JRPG that comes closest to Chrono Trigger since Chrono Trigger. And I know what I'm saying there. I realize the gravity of that, but it really is the whole package. It is impossibly polished. It's a beautiful looking game. This is what I imagine a 3D remake of Chrono Trigger to look like, with like Akira Toriyama designs in 3D. The music is now great thanks to the orchestration. The story is just the story is so good. I can't put this game down. It is amazing, and the characters, the cast of characters is so charming. They feel like my best friends. I don't think I've enjoyed a cast of characters this much. I can't even remember the last time. This is very much a modern Chrono Trigger, and it is one of the best JRPGs I've ever played. And I do think everything they added to it qualifies it as its own release. And, whoever disagrees, that's fine. But this is my number one game of the year by far. It is so impossibly fantastic and one of the best JRPGs I have ever played in my life.
Ash, usually I feel like adding content in the middle of a game, that's like canon to the story, can feel like clutter. But I've been chipping away at Dragon Quest XI S since it came out, and this morning I actually finished the first act, and
oh boy,
I got to the point where you sort of go over to the party members for their original stories, and it felt so natural that I was surprised it was never in the original game. It felt like it was always there.
Right? That's exactly how I feel. And it doesn't just pad out the game with meaningful fluff. Sorry, with meaningless fluff. It adds to the game in meaningful ways, and you find out how these characters that you've grown to love get to where they are in the second act. And can I just say, John, the end of that first act, holy crap, right? Like, this game takes...
intense.
Right? This game's story takes risks, and there are other risks that it takes later on that I can't tell you about. But this game doesn't play it safe, and the story, while it is rooted in tradition, goes to places you would never, ever expect. This game is incredible, and for me to say that it's the closest thing to Chrono Trigger since Chrono Trigger, you guys know how high praise that is, because that's my favorite game of all time.
I mean, I nominated the original because of our existing rule, so I wasn't sure how that really played. So I was like, all right, I'm going to play it safe and nominate the original PS4 version, because I'll be honest, this would be my game of the year if we allowed for the whole remake, remaster, re-release thing. I'm not sure, it was a little tricky this year, but whatever. The game is phenomenal. I was addicted to it the entire time. You look to my 11 presentation and just add stuff, because you didn't even mention the whole ticking thing where you go into TD,
right?
2D, the fact that you can play the entire game in 2D, the fact that there's a brand new super boss at the very end that is legitimately rough, the fact that it's really replayable even for those who've played it before, because this stuff was in the PS4, but they have these extra hard things where, like, townspeople will lie to you, or you can't equip new equipment, you're stuck with the base equipment. There's stuff like that, and you can turn those off at any time, but it does add replayability and challenge to it if you're looking for it, and the game is so freaking good. Like I said in my review, this is a new classic. This is
absolutely
something that's people are going to hold up for a long time, not just because of the, just each element works so well and really draws you in.
And let me be clear, I have a whole list of things here they added to the game, but I didn't want to just fluff up my talking with that. But there are so many things they added to this game that I didn't even get into.
Yeah, I mean, we know based on your slideshows, you never have time for it all, Ash.
Hey, that was just Zelda, all right?
So this isn't proper cross-examination because it's not your choice, but I am curious about one thing. That's the fact that you said this would have been your game of the year, but you also said... You had previously said Kingdom Hearts was your game of the year, and you said that was a mind-blowing, but you only gave this game a loved, so I'm confused.
Oh, why must you call me out, Andre? So this is a thing that I've dealt with all year, really agonizing over, because in one hand, Kingdom Hearts was mind-blowing to me at the time, but also was really, had a really tight embargo for that. That might have bumped it up a little bit, but I still stand by it. And I gave Dragon Quest a love because I didn't think it quite added enough new. This is still basic JRPG stuff. Like the battle system is fun, unique, and great, but it didn't have that extra twist or innovation that really made it go over the edge for me. Trust me, I am agonizing over this. Like, sometimes, like, should I have given just Kingdom Hearts 3 the love and Dragon Quest the mind-blowing? I don't know. It's so tough on me because these games are just too good, and I also don't want to be the somebody that hands out mind-blowings willy-nilly. So it's something I got to think of going forward, is how I want to treat my mind-blowings, how I treat those reviews and aspects. But when I say it's a loved, it is the most loved you can get without going to mind-blowing, because it really is that good.
Right. And to be clear, I think this would have been my second mind-blowing if I had reviewed the S version. I think it would have been. I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure it would have been my second ever mind-blowing.
Best post-game in any game I've ever played.
Cool. Any other thoughts on Dragon Quest or anything? I guess any other thoughts at all on any of our top picks, everyone, before we fully wrap it up here?
Solid list, I'd say. Good picks all around and whatnot. I do want to give quick special mention to my number 4 pick, which is Devil May Cry 5, just because that game's a lot of fun, but that's all I'll say.
Mm-hmm. I'd also call out Astral Chain, which was a great game.
Yeah.
Not one that any of us nominated, but I really liked it. Just not enough to crack my top 3, though.
Right. Actually, I would like to call out Shovel Knight King of Cards, because that just came out, and it's already my number 4. It is so good and so well written. That was my number 4. It's a great game, and I just wanted to call that out.
I don't even know what my number 4 is. I guess Labo VR counts as like 6 games or something. So
that's your whole top 5.
It's like 100 games technically.
Yeah, I suppose so. It has all those all those little community games or whatever they were called. So
yeah.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up, right, guys? Anything else?
Yeah, solid
Luigi's
year.
Mansion 3 was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, hey, that actually I was
too.
gonna bring that up. No one brought Luigi's Mansion 3 to the table.
Luigi's Mansion
wow,
3
yeah.
was my number 4. It
Okay.
barely missed the cutoff, but I feel like I spent more. I feel like Judgment and Luigi's Mansion 3 I enjoyed equally, but I got more playtime out of Judgment, so it barely nudged Luigi out of the way.
I think it might have been my number 4, maybe. I didn't love it as much. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it as much as it seems some people have. So I thought it was fine. I thought it was adorable. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't think it was as strong gameplay wise as I was hoping for.
I kind of thought it would be your number 3.
Some of the best animation of the year, though.
Oh, the animation's
Oh,
great,
without a doubt.
but I just
Oh,
look
yeah.
for more in the game than that.
The one thing I want to say about Luigi's Mansion 3 is that I hope whatever the next mainline Mario game is uses the same visual tech that they used for that, because Luigi's Mansion 3 is like the best looking game on the Switch. And
So
I
you
think
want the
it's
next
by a
Mario game
wide
to run
margin.
at 30 frames per second, which remember was one of my 60 slides of Super Mario Odyssey being better than Breath of the Wild.
I think a lot of it is because Luigi's Mansion is smaller. Like, the rooms are all optimized to be seen from a certain angle, whereas Mario can't really do that.
True.
I do want to call out one cool thing that happened this year that may never happen again. Andre, you and I usually have pretty divergent gaming tastes, and yet we are very united in our sheer adoration of YookaLaylee. My
Yes,
number
that
2,
came
your
around.
number 1. I thought that was pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That was a really good game. So that was a lot of fun.
Good year.
Yeah.
Yeah, good year indeed. As can be said for a lot of the years we've been exploring over the past decade, or well, not over the past decade, kind of. You know what I mean. And with that, we are about done here. So those are our These are our picks for game of the year, and the top one to become our candidate for game of the decade. So make sure to vote in the comments as to which game you think is the best. We're still gonna figure out exactly how we're gonna handle this Dragon Quest situation. So you'll see in the poll what we decided on in that case. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and of course, make sure to stay tuned for our final game of the decade debate, in which we take all 10 or possibly more candidates. Stay tuned for that, in which we'll figure out which of those top 10 plus are the official game of the decade. It should be a lot of fun. So with that, we'll catch you later. Bye.